Hi, I'm Coach Amber, and welcome to the Revero Success Story Podcast. Today we have Coach Sharon with us, and she's going to share her story. Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's get started. Sharon, tell us a little bit about what your life and your situation was prior to starting a meat-based diet.
So my journey it's not unlike a lot of other people's who end up coming to this way of eating. I mean, it started back in childhood. I was diagnosed with asthma and severe allergies at like age 7, 8 years old. By the time I was 11, got diagnosed with anxiety and depression. Then, puberty hit and I had severe PMS that was kind of bordering on that like PMDD, premenstrual dysphoric disorder range. They were extremely periods that they got heavier and longer the older that I got, that eventually led to my hysterectomy in 2019. I had developed psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis as I got older. I had eczema, cystic acne, keratosis pilaris, all kinds of just skin issues my whole life. As I got older, I started getting severe hair loss, like to the point where I was afraid to wash my hair because it would just come out in like fistfuls. And then, starting at around that age of like 19, 20 years old, I had already had I had already given birth to my first child, and I started developing brain fog and chronic fatigue. I started having chronic pain issues and developing a severe or extreme sensitivity to cold that I had never had before. I mean, I've never liked cold, but I was never like extremely sensitive to cold. And at that time, because the doctors, they don't dig very deep. They just test the basic. And if nothing seems abnormal, they just say there's nothing wrong with you. And so of course they couldn't find anything wrong with me at that time. And I was told that it was all in my head and to go see a psychiatrist. So that was pretty much what led me to kind of avoid doctors at that time. Unless I was pregnant or I was sick and needed like an antibiotic or something, or I was in some sort of like extreme pain that like I felt like I was in. Those were the only reasons I would seek out, medical attention. I developed GI issues in my mid-20s, acid reflux. I had chronic constipation, led to calcification in my gallbladder that I ended up having removed. And between the 4 pregnancies and the constipation, I eventually developed hemorrhoids. So last but not least, I had gestational diabetes in 2 of my 4 pregnancies. And at the end of that whole sad way of eating, I was becoming pre-diabetic. So I ate the pretty standard American diet, becoming the pre-diabetic, having a long history of type 2 diabetes and dementia in my family, my older family members. I knew what my life was going to hold for me. And that's what led me to I have to change something. Something has to work. I already knew all the diabetes advice, what to do. And that didn't work. It didn't work. All it does is get people to get sicker and get more frustrated. And eventually they just throw everything out the window and said, I'm going to eat what I want and be happy. That was kind of where I was. But I knew that I had to do something. Like I had to get this weight off. And I transitioned into, I found the low carb, high fat, ketogenic, way of eating. I won't say it wasn't really a keto diet, but it was definitely low carb and high fat, moderate amount of protein. And I threw everything out. So I transitioned into that and I lost 60 pounds and started seeing some improvements in like the brain fog went completely away. I wasn't chronically fatigued anymore. my skin was clearing up and getting better, except for the rash that had developed on my behind, because I was eating a lot of low carb vegetables, and I was eating, the healthy fats to keep me satiated, and then whatever could fit into my macros, protein wise, was what kind of filled in those gaps. So it was very very vegetable heavy, and meat was the condiment type of way of eating. But it was, like I said, very clean, real whole foods. And I lost the weight, but I knew that I could do better. I knew that there had to be more that I could do in that level of healing. Because I'd heard stories of all these people who they were able to reverse all these things that I was suffering with that way of eating. It just wasn't happening for me. And I heard about the carnivore diet, and I was like, all right, it took me 7 months to lose the weight, get to my ideal goal body weight. And I was like, all right, I'm going to try this for 30 days and see what happens. And within the first 2 weeks, the rash on my behind went away. And I was like, I'm hooked.
I love that. That's a great ending right there. The rash on my behind is gone. I love it.
Yes, that was so important to me. I was just
I
wasn't waking up digging at I wasn't in public digging at my behind because it itched so bad. So yeah, that was the most embarrassing thing.
I so get it. Okay, so when you did transition to carnivore, how did you implement the diet? What were you eating? What were you not eating? And did you have any transitional issues?
So I just ate meat. I started with fattier cuts of meat, like ribeye, chuck eyes, because they're cheap, very fatty ground beef because it's less expensive. And I do have 4 children at home. So 2 of which are teenagers. And when I made my change, everyone in the house had to change at home. Outside of the house, I can't control what they do, but inside the house, I control the food. I control what people are eating. So I wasn't just feeding me, I was feeding the entire house. Now, I didn't cut vegetables out for all of them, but I did for me. I went strictly animal products, beef, chicken, seafood, and then and any sources of animal fat, because that was what I knew. It was just stop eating anything that comes from the plant kingdom and only eat meat. I read a couple of the books. I read Dr. Baker's book, a couple of carnivore books, Dr. Baker's book being one of them, and learning about, all the toxins in the plants and ancestral eating, and just kind of educating myself, and, found the Revero community. And within those first couple weeks, I joined the community. So, seeking out that support to find, because I learned early that community is really important. Learning from people who have come before me, and different things that I could try, because I knew I didn't want to go straight beef salt water. So I did meats and salt and a handful of seasonings to start with, coming into it. I eventually transitioned into doing a higher fat because my body was just craving fat. I tell people I went through a refeeding process because I was so nutrient starved from the standard American diet, and then eating all the high vegetable diet, and I lost muscle mass during that time frame. So losing them, my body was just starved from decades of use and abuse, and so I kind of had to go through that refeeding. And my body was just craving fat. So I did eat, fattier, trying to learn how I can incorporate more fats. Since I don't have a gallbladder, you can imagine, I did have issues with diarrhea and the higher fat. So, I had to introduce ox bile in order to help kind of mitigate that. But really the only, I want to say, transitional symptom that I had to deal with was already transitioned off of the processed foods, the processed carbs, the sugar. None of that was in my diet at all anyway. So I didn't have to go through, with the electrolytes and anything like that, because it was something I was already doing. So it was literally just the diarrhea.
Yep, that's pretty common.
Yeah.
So, okay, so now the good part. What has changed since you started a meat-based diet? You talked about some improvements once you went keto, but what were the changes when you went more meat-based?
Like I said, the immediate for me was losing the rash. I mean, the rash just went away. My asthma completely gone. I even had to throw out my rescue inhaler because it expired and I hadn't used it in 2 years. Yeah, we're coming up on 2 years since the last time I used it. It expired. I had to get rid of it. Didn't refill it because I had no need for it. Allergy wise, I still have some allergy symptoms because I got seasonal allergies, but I don't really like the symptoms that I have. Like, I don't immediately associate like, oh, I have allergies. Allergies are the problem. It's like, I'll get a little bit of a sniffle, maybe a couple crusties in my nose first thing in the morning, and I'll have a headache. So it's like, am I coming down? Is it something? Did the kids bring something home from school? Am I coming down with something? Do I just need more salt? Because of the headache. Sometimes it's just a headache. Like, there's no nothing and it's just a headache. It's like, do I need more salt? And I'm adding electrolytes and that's not helping. And then I walk out the door and lo and behold, there's pollen all over everything. And I'm like, ding, 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 my allergies. And so after a couple of days, it all goes away. My anxiety and depression that I've dealt with for decades, the depression is gone. Like, I have joy. I love life. I'm not miserable all the time. I do still have some occasional symptoms with anxiety when I consume dairy, which is not very often, but I live in Wisconsin and I love cheese. So I am going to continue to live my life and enjoy those moments in time. So like I said, if cheese is the indulgence that I allow myself, it's not the worst thing in the world. So I do allow that as an indulgence, especially when I am around other people, like at potlucks or family gatherings or things like that, where there's a bunch of stuff that is triggering to me. Because I was a fat girl. I love food. I still love food. That's what I love about the carnivore diet is I can eat all the meat I want until I'm full and be happy with that. So yes, I do allow myself the cheese because it keeps me from going to anything else. I have just become hyper aware that over the course of the next couple of days, I will have some cravings for things that I don't normally have, and I will experience symptoms of anxiety, just random panic attacks out of nowhere. But because I'm hyper aware of what is coming in those instances, I am able to just kind of ride through it, usually any more than a day. And I'm right back, where I started from, happy, no symptoms. I don't, because I did have a hysterectomy in 2019. So when it comes to PMS, I do have my ovaries, so I do still cycle hormonally. And the only symptom that I during that time frame is if I'm not eating enough fat when we get into that hormonal fluctuations, and I'll get a little bit moody. So if I start getting snippy, I'm like, I need some fat. I need a day where I'm eating all the high fat stuff. My psoriasis completely gone. The eczema, the cystic acne, like it doesn't happen anymore. The keratosis pilaris, as long as I am eating nutrient dense foods, specifically beef liver, on a fairly I don't have to eat it all the time anymore, but on a fairly consistent basis and keeping those vitamin A stores at a decent level, and I don't have any issues with the keratosis pilaris either. I mean, my hair, I wish I had taken before pictures. But my hair is growing back in. It's beautiful. It's thick. It's luxurious. And I go in, I'm not afraid to take a shower anymore. I'm not afraid to wash my hair, because it's just that normal day-to-day shedding that happens now. It's not coming out in clumps. You know, the brain fog and all the fatigue, the chronic pain, all those things have been gone. And the extreme sensitivity to cold, as long as I have enough fat, I don't have any issues with it. Like I produce body heat to where I live in Wisconsin and we like to go ice fishing. I despise being cold, but if I'm eating high enough fat, I can go out and I can do the things that I love and enjoy in the winter and not have any problems with the cold. So, you know, my acid reflux, the constipation, I mean, on keto, I would go, like, I had to take probiotics every day. I had to take Miralax every day to keep myself going. And if it came to a point where I didn't go for 2 or 3 days, then I had to take milk of mag in order to get myself to go. Like, since going carnivore, like, no issues when it comes to bowel movements. It's just, it's beautiful. I'm not producing a lot of waste. So some days I might go 2 or 3 days, but it's just because I don't have waste. You know, most days I go every day, but I don't have the waste that I had before. Again, like I said, with the ox bile, I don't have any issues with the diarrhea anymore, because that pretty much takes care of that. And I haven't had a problem with hemorrhoids since going to carnivore. It's just all gone. And every symptom of insulin resistance, pre-diabetes, any of that, it's just gone. Like it's just gone. I want to say it's like, it's a miracle magic, but it's because that's the way that it feels, because we're taught that, you know, once you're here, that's it. You have to just learn how to live with it. So finding something that, like I said, it's magic, all these things just go away.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's great benefits right there. Okay, so since you are a Revero member, can you tell what you find to be beneficial?
So, as I mentioned earlier, I already understood the importance of community from the keto journey. So, of course, you know, when I did find Revero, I didn't hesitate to, you know, fully jump into that full year's commitment of a membership. And I can honestly say that the love and support that I received from the coaches in this community from day one, is what kept me staying the course. Learning things from the more experienced carnivores, things that work, because there's no one right way for anybody. There's the way that works for you, and you've just got to figure out what that is. And that process is so frustrating. But having the support of the community, is just, it's the number one thing, because without that, I would have given up within the first 30 days. The second because that was my biggest fear, was gaining the weight back. Because if I gained the weight back, then I was going to get sick again, and all these things were going to happen. Because I did start gaining weight. So as soon as I started putting weight back on, I would have quit. I would have gone back to what I was doing before, because at least then I wouldn't put the weight on. But the support of learning from these more experienced people and having them remind me to just trust the process and have faith that my body knows what it's doing. It's scary to go at it alone. And the community, it's so important to just have a support system of people who are going through or have gone through what you are wanting to go through.
I could not agree with you more. I think community is truly everything. That support is so necessary. Okay,
Yeah.
so I have one more question for you. Since you are a coach, I would like to know a little bit about your coaching approach and what made you want to be a coach.
So after a year, again, I celebrated my carniversary at the beginning of this month. Right now, it's currently September of 2021. So September 1st was my 1-year carniversary. I was so excited to celebrate that. And for the last several months, there have been community members who kept asking me when I was going to become a coach. Literally every week there's somebody, when are you going to become a Revero coach? When are you going to get certified to be a coach? And so finally, after I hit my 1 year, I guess that was kind of just that boost, that confidence boost of, okay, I really do know what I'm doing type of a thing, to just kind of go for it. And so I was already practicing as a life coach. I spent the 2 years prior to my weight loss, prior to the beginning of my weight loss journey, working on mindset. So I worked with life coaches, and then I became a certified life coach myself. So understanding that the mind is a very powerful thing, and we literally can do anything that we set our mind to. So that is what I bring to my coaching style, is that I approach fixing the diet by fixing the mindset, because we do hard things all the time. We set goals for ourselves and we do the hard things and we accomplish. But when it comes to diet, I have no idea what it is about that's so hard that many times we find ourselves giving in to the tantrum that the toddler in our brain is throwing, and that's trying to convince us that this is just too hard. It's not meant for us. We're not good at this. We're just destined to be X, Y, or Z. And we give up, or we quit on ourselves. Or the opposite of that is, we've been doing so good for so deserve, fill in the blank with your poison of choice. And we indulge, and we find ourselves falling back into those self-sabotaging behaviors that put us right back into that cycle again. So I really feel like if you can change the mindset, it makes those dietary changes, the lifestyle changes, easier to commit to.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And that's my approach too. So yay. I think we're on the right track there. Well, Sharon, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. It's been a pleasure. And for y'all out there who are looking for a carnivore coach and maybe need a little bit of mindset help, go check out Sharon.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Bye, Sharon. You have a wonderful day.
You too.
Join Revero.health for a 30-day free trial to get access to live Q&A with VIP guests, social community meetings, member discounts, low-carb healthcare providers list, forum, workouts, monthly challenges, early access to podcasts, recipes, carnivore diet guide, fasting guide, shred guide, and much more.